On a cold December night in 1968, a chilling event occurred that would shock the world. In the quiet town of Vallejo, California, two young hearts, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, decided to spend their evening together, soaking in the serene ambience of Lake Herman Road. Little did they know their innocent date would turn into a horrific nightmare, a tale of terror that would echo through the annals of crime history. David, a 17-year-old boy, and Betty, a sweet 16-year-old girl, were enjoying their time together, their laughter and whispers of love floating in the chilly winter air. But as the night grew darker, so did their fate. The couple was found lifeless in their car, their bodies cold and still. The tranquility of Lake Herman Road was shattered by the deafening silence of death. The young couple were not just victims of a random act of violence, but the prey of a cold-blooded killer. They were shot at point-blank range, the bullets piercing their bodies, stealing away their lives in an instant. The brutal nature of their death suggested a perpetrator who was not just vicious, but also remorseless. A man who would later be known as the Zodiac Killer. This horrifying event marked the beginning of a series of killings that would send shockwaves across the United States. The police were left baffled, the town was gripped with fear, and the world watched in morbid fascination as the story of the Zodiac Killer began to unfold. David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were the first known victims of this ruthless predator. Their tragic end was not just a heartbreaking loss for their loved ones, but also a grim reminder of the lurking evil in our society. The peaceful town of Vallejo was forever scarred by this gruesome incident, the memory of that fateful December night etched in its heart. Little did anyone know, this was just the beginning of a horrifying series of events. The Zodiac Killer had made his first move, marking the start of a terrifying game of cat and mouse that would last for years, leaving a trail of unsolved mysteries, cryptic messages, and broken families in its wake. Months later, on July 4, 1969, the Zodiac Killer struck again. This time, the scene of the crime was Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, California. It was Independence Day, a day of celebration, but for Darlene Ferrin and Michael Margot, it would turn into a nightmare. 18-year-old Ferrin and 16-year-old Margot had gone out to enjoy the fireworks, unaware that a sinister figure was trailing them. As they parked their car in the lot, they noticed a strange vehicle following them. Initially, they felt a sense of relief when the vehicle drove past. However, moments later, it returned, blocking their path. A man emerged from the car, flashlight in hand, and approached their vehicle. At first, Ferrin and Margot thought he might be a police officer. But then, the unthinkable happened. The man opened fire, shooting both of them multiple times. Ferrin attempted to flee the scene, but she didn't make it far. She tragically lost her life that night. Margot, however, survived the attack, despite his serious injuries. In the aftermath of the horrifying ordeal, Margot was able to provide a description of the assailant. He described a man in his late 20s or early 30s with short curly hair, a large face, and a stocky build. It was the first time anyone had been able to provide a description of the Zodiac Killer, a small yet significant victory in a case that seemed filled with dead ends. However, despite Margot's description, the Zodiac Killer remained elusive. He continued his reign of terror, leaving behind a trail of victims and a series of cryptic messages that confounded investigators. The case of the Zodiac Killer became one of the most infamous in the annals of American crime, a chilling reminder of the dark side of humanity. The Zodiac Killer was not only deadly but also elusive, leaving behind few clues. The Zodiac Killer didn't just kill, he also sent cryptic letters and ciphers to the police and the press. On August 1, 1969, the Zodiac Killer made his presence felt beyond the crime scenes. He mailed letters to 3 different newspapers: the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times. These letters not only claimed responsibility for the horrific attacks on the young couples, but also provided chilling details that only the killer could know. The choice of bullets, the number of shots fired, and even the clothing worn by the victims. All these were meticulously detailed, proving the authenticity of the letters and establishing a chilling connection between the sender and the crimes. But the Zodiac Killer didn't stop there. Along with the letters, he sent an encoded message, a cryptogram containing 408 symbols. This was not a random jumble of symbols, but a carefully constructed puzzle designed to baffle and intrigue. The Zodiac was not just a killer, he was a manipulator, a puppet master controlling the narrative of his own gruesome tale. He was turning his reign of terror into a twisted game, inviting law enforcement and the public to play along. The cryptogram was a complex mix of symbols and letters, a code that seemed unbreakable. It was a taunt, a challenge, and a threat all in one. The Zodiac was not just killing his victims, he was also toying with the minds of those who were trying to stop him. And with each unsolved cipher, his aura of invincibility only grew stronger. Yet despite the complexity of the code, a high school teacher and his wife managed to partially crack the 408-symbol cryptogram. Their solution revealed a disturbing message from the Zodiac, further affirming his desire for notoriety and control. The Zodiac Killer was playing a twisted game, and the stakes were life and death. The Zodiac Killer left a trail of terror across Northern California. His reign of terror continued, with subsequent attacks that were both confirmed and suspected to be his handiwork. In the fall of 1969, he struck again, this time targeting a young couple picnicking near Lake Berryessa. The man survived the attack, but the woman succumbed to her injuries. Less than 2 weeks later, a taxi driver in San Francisco was shot dead in his cab. The Zodiac Killer claimed responsibility for both these attacks in letters sent to newspapers. Then on November 9, 1969, the Zodiac Killer sent a chilling letter in which he claimed to have killed 7 victims. He wrote, "I shall no longer announce to anyone when I commit my murders. They shall look like routine robberies, killings of anger, and a few fake accidents, etc." This claim sent waves of fear through the public. Was the Zodiac Killer now hiding his murders amongst everyday crime? The Zodiac's reign of terror continued into the early 70s. He sent a series of letters, each more disturbing than the last, claiming additional victims and taunting the police for their inability to catch him. His last confirmed letter arrived on January 29, 1974, in which he praised the movie The Exorcist as the best satirical comedy he had ever seen. In this letter, he also included a scorecard of sorts, tallying his alleged victims. Me = 37, SFPD = 0. It was a chilling reminder of the Zodiac's audacity and the terror he had inflicted. Yet despite his claims, the police could only definitively link him to 5 murders and 2 attempted murders. The Zodiac Killer's reign of terror had seemingly ended, but the mystery was far from over. His identity remains unknown, and his letters, filled with cryptic messages and ciphers, continue to baffle experts. The Zodiac Killer's trail of terror may have ended, but his dark shadow still looms over the annals of American criminal history. Decades later, the Zodiac Killer's identity remains a mystery. Despite an exhaustive investigation involving both local and federal law enforcement, the case remains unsolved. For years, detectives pored over evidence, decoded cryptic messages, and followed countless leads. But the Zodiac Killer eluded capture, slipping like a phantom through the fingers of justice. Over the years, numerous suspects have been considered. Arthur Lee Allen, a convicted child molester, was a prime suspect due to his possession of a Zodiac brand watch and a fascination with cryptograms. However, despite circumstantial evidence and alleged confessions, DNA and handwriting analysis failed to link him conclusively to the crimes. Another suspect, Ross Sullivan, a librarian with a striking resemblance to the composite sketch of the Zodiac, quickly piqued investigators' interest. Sullivan's mental health struggles and cryptology knowledge made him a tantalizing suspect, but again, no definitive proof could be found. The case of the Zodiac Killer has become a cultural phenomenon, inspiring books, movies, and countless theories. Amateur sleuths and professional detectives alike continue to be drawn to the mystery, poring over the case files, attempting to crack the Zodiac's cryptic codes, and speculating on the killer's true identity. Despite the passage of over 5 decades, the Zodiac case continues to captivate and confound. The tantalizing mix of cryptic messages, brazen taunts, and brutal murders create a chilling narrative that continues to intrigue and horrify. The Zodiac's audacious crimes and baffling evasion of justice have made him one of history's most notorious unidentified serial killers. The Zodiac Killer's true identity may never be known, a haunting reminder of a dark chapter in history. The shadow of the Zodiac lingers, a grim testament to the human capacity for violence and the enduring power of unsolved mysteries. His story serves as a grim reminder that sometimes, even amidst the most rigorous investigations, the truth can remain tantalizingly out of reach.